Hi, Pete. Hi, Yannick.
Hi, Nelson. Can you hear me?
I can hear you okay.
Good morning, Nelson. How are you today?
All good, Pete. I can hear you as well.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so I think let's just give it a few more minutes and then we can start. Anthony will be joining us shortly.
No worries.
All right, I think we can start as more people are joining. Pete, Yannick, you're good to go?
Yes, we are. Let me share my screen.
Okay, thank you. So my name is Nelson Garissa. I'm the chapter engagement specialist for the region, the Sub-Saharan Africa region, and I'm excited to welcome you to today's session. I'm just going to start the recording for this webinar, and then we will share this afterwards, in addition to other materials as well. So feel free to interact on the chat as the session goes on. Feel free to post your LinkedIn profiles, connect with as many people as you can, drop comments, say where you're from. Let's just get the engagement going. Post your questions on the chat or the Q&A section, and then our able presenters will respond to those at the end of the session. Today's session is very exciting. We're going to hear from Yannick and Pete, and I'm going to just pass it on to them now.
Thank you, Nelson, and good evening, everyone. Can every one of you see my screen? Can you see my screen, Nelson?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Brilliant, brilliant. So today's session will be talking about the vital role of respect in project management. So that's very important. So I've highlighted the word respect, and where does that come from? It comes from the PMI values. So we'll talk about the agenda will be pretty simple. So it's a bit light on. So we'll talk on the PMI values and how that's linked with the PMI talent triangle, especially the power skills in the talent triangle, then also the alignment with the Agile Manifesto. So we're going to start from the values and then start to delve into how it's linked with Agile Manifesto. And then I'll pass on to Pete that will talk a bit more about practically when you're running your Agile team, when you're running your ceremonies, how is that related? As part of doing your PMP, your PMI ACP, which I really strongly recommend. So the PMI ACP is a really, really good course. So we all come across the PMI code of ethics, especially the PMI code of conduct that relate to values. PMI has 4 values, and that's available on the website if you want to have a look to our PMI ethics website, on the PMI website. So what are these 4 values? They are first responsibility, respect, fairness, and honesty. What does it mean is that every project manager who's a certified PMI project manager, we expect you to behave in a responsible way. So what does that mean is that we take ownership for our decisions. So we are responsible for our action and our decision. Secondly, in respect, because we work in a team environment, we expect everyone to behave in a respectful way towards each other, towards the organization. Fairness, this is our duty to make decisions. So we need to be impartial and objective. So this is where that's linked with conflict of interest. So any decision that we make, any of our behavior needs to show fairness. And finally, honesty. So we need to be honest in the way we interact and the way we conduct ourselves. So why is that important is everyone have seen the talent triangle. So that was refreshed a few years ago. So as part of a talent triangle, we have what we call the power skills. So the power skills consist of a set of tools that will help project managers to better deliver their projects. So it's not only important to have a technical project management skills, but also the power skills. So power skills such as leadership, active listening. So it's very important to be able to listen to our team members, to listen to others, because if we don't listen, we don't learn. And it's very important to be able to communicate. So if we don't communicate properly, there might be misunderstanding. And all these lists of power skills that is available to us when we look at it on the right here on my screen. So we can see by behaving using the PMI values, which is respect, responsibility, fairness, and honesty, they are linked. They are very important because that will help us acquire those power skills and become better equipped with those power skills. So now if we look at the 2023 Pulse of a Profession, so from PMI, everyone should be receiving emails from Pulse of a Profession every time we do a survey. What we can see is that there's a direct relationship between power skills and project success. So organizations that prioritize power skills, they've seen a 57% increase in business realization maturity, project management maturity, and organization maturity. Dramatic increase. And organizations that did not prioritize, that did not think that this is important, so they've seen a really, really big decrease in business realization, project management, and organization agility. So on top of the list, so the business benefits came on top. Low level of scope creep, frequent use of standard risk management practices. So we can see that there's a direct correlation between the power skills, and that's interlinked with the PMI values. So this is supported by evidence. So we've seen from the power skills from the slides before from a person profession that it's evidence-based. So now if we look at, so everyone will ask us, how does it apply to Agile, to an Agile project? So when we look at the Agile Manifesto, so which contains 4 values: individuals and interactions over process and tools, working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, responding to change over following a plan. So now when we look at these 4 values, I've highlighted 2 out of 4. We look at the 12 principles, and I've highlighted 6 out of 12. What is common? What do we see with those highlighted values and principles? What is important, what we can see here, is they all relate to people. So individuals and interactions of a process have tools. So that relates to interacting with team members, relationship with people. Customer collaboration, this is relating to people again. And the 6 highlighted principles as well, they all relate to people. So that's very, very important because it shows that the Agile Manifesto put a lot of emphasis, 50%, with people. So now, how do we enforce that? Is through power skills. So by having leadership skills, active listening, communication, adaptability, brainstorming, all these skills that we need to be able to get will help us interact with the people. And the PMI values is rooted into this. So this is very, very important to be able to understand, first understand those values, embrace those values, and then that will allow you to start to acquire more power skills. And this is a really, really good slide. So this slide comes again from the PMI ACP, so curriculum. So what this tells you, by having the values, so when you have a set of values, that will drive your behavior. So your behavior, the behavior that everyone behaves in society and among a team, this comes from the values that they have. So in Agile, having an Agile mindset, we all talk about what is Agile. Agile is a mindset. So in order to have an Agile mindset, we need to prescribe to the 4 values and the 12 principles. So having the PMI values in addition to those values will better equip you to have these mindsets that will drive your behavior. So how are you going to behave in an Agile team is that you will display servant leadership. So you'll be there to serve a team instead of bossing the team. So you'll be here to support the team instead of blaming the team. And how are you going to do that as well? How are you going to behave? You'll be behaving in a way that you will respect each other. You will respect their time. You will respect their opinion. You will respect their point of view. And everything that you do will be looking at building quality, constantly improving the work that we do, improving the way we communicate. And at the end of the day, this will drive maximum value for your customers. So that's really important. And now I will pass on to Pete that will really talk about now practically. Okay, so if we've got the values, we understand the values, we understand the PMI talent triangle and the power skills. Okay, how does it apply to my team when I'm running my daily sprint, my backlog refinement, my retrospective? Over to you, Pete.
All right, thank you, everyone. Thank you also, Yannick, for really laying the foundation. Let me first of all check. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can, Pete.
Okay, beautiful, beautiful. All right, let's go straight into it. Now, based on what Yannick has actually built for us, the foundation, we want to really look at what we can see when we don't have respect in Agile teams. For example, we're going to look at some examples and some consequences. So let's start off. Of course, let's continue to engage on the charts. If there's any question, you can drop it there. We find time to look at them later on. Some of these examples that we'll be sharing you'll find yourself or your team in it, and of course, begin to think. It's more like making us to see or think about our team environment. But to start off, lack of respect, right? It's very important to look at that before we look at when respect is really available. When you have lack of respect in in agile ways of working or agile teams, it can actually lead to dysfunctional team. It can lead to reduced productivity and, of course, poor project outcomes. So the slide that we'll be looking at going forward will actually give us examples of when we have lack of respect before we go on to when we actually have respect within our teams. Take, for example, when you have daily stand-ups, it's one of the meetings in agile ways of working, especially when you're using Scrum. Now, okay, someone is saying we can't see the screen. Can you see my screen? Let me just check. Okay.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so Spetha, if you can reboot or rejoin, that will help you, but I think others can see. All right, cool. So let's go ahead. Now, during stand-up, when some team members frequently interrupt others or dominate conversation, it actually prevents quieter members from sharing their updates. Now, this is common in certain instances, especially when there is no respect within the team. And of course, that is why we have some certain roles within the team, like the Scrum Master, to definitely help correct the situation. If this does not get corrected, what happens? It hinders, communication. Team members will feel undervalued. And we see these in teams that do not have, psychological safety or respect within the team. So it can actually lead to other team members not sharing important updates because other team members are actually interrupting them. The daily stand-up is meant for collaboration, right? If a few people dominate, the conversation, it can actually stifle collaboration and innovative ideas. That will lead to low morale, right? Those people that are very, very disrespected will not bring their whole self to work, and therefore the morale of the whole team will be affected. Okay, so when you see this happening within your team, that is a bad smell which needs to stop. Another example comes in from sprint planning, which is one of the major events in Scrum or agile ways of working. When you see a product owner that disregards the team's input on estimation, on priority, especially when they now say, well, this is what I want. Now, a product owner is meant to bring the what to deliver to the team. And of course, the team members, they are responsible for the how, right? So their voice needs to be heard. Of course, the consequences of this example is lack of ownership, right? Team members will feel that they are not, valued enough, especially their expertise, their know-how will be undervalued. Of course, that means they don't have ownership of the goals that needs to be developed. If that goes on unresolved, that will lead to decreased motivation, right? They will be very, very demotivated. And inefficiency comes in. Of course, if they are demotivated, the whole essence of planning is to make sure that we efficiently use the resources that we do have as a team in terms of time, the goal, the work items that needs to be delivered, right? And so if this continues, unrealistic goals will continue to come up, and of course, missed expectations and missed deadlines come into play. Therefore, sprint planning, during the sprint planning, we need to hear everybody's voice. Lack of respect is bad. In retrospective, one example, when some team members are so critical of other people, right, instead of focusing on constructive feedback. Now, this is all about feedback, but there's a huge difference between, calling out behaviors and calling out, individuals. If it's a form of attack, that is a no-no. In fact, that will lead to what we call a toxic culture. Now, in agile ways of working, the culture is meant to improve. But if this is not the case, if criticism is the order of the day, it leads to toxic environment. Trust will not be there. Collaboration will be absent. Of course, people within the team will continue to not share what they think. The honest feedback that is required during retrospective will not be there. Opportunities to improvement will also be stifled. Again, low morale is coming back. Yeah, because people within the team members are meant to bring their whole self to work. Of course, continuous negative interactions can severely impact team morale and team cohesion. So the team is meant to come from storming to, from forming to storming, and then before they can begin to normalize, and then they perform at the end of the day. Lack of respect, leave the team at the lowest point where they continue to storm, and then that will lead to low morale. Now, we have backlog refinement within teams, right? This is just for us to be able to work on the product backlog and make it ready for upcoming iterations, right? Now, when you have a product owner that schedules backlog refinement sessions at times that are kind of inconvenient for the team, because such product owner is not considering the availability of the team and probably not even scheduling it on time. It's common practice to have same time in every iteration. If this is not the case, we can begin to see attendance. The consequences could be attendance, poor attendance, right? Because inconvenient scheduling can lead to poor attendance and engagement. So it's very important for everybody to be well respected and their voice to be heard. And it's a team decision as to when, such meeting as backlog refinement can actually be put together. So if this goes on, especially this example where the product owner schedules backlog refinement sessions within inconvenient time for the team, it will lead to ineffective sessions. Every session, every meeting, or every event in our agile ways of working is an opportunity for us to inspect, opportunity for us as teams to adapt, opportunity for us to continuously be effective. If this is not the case because of lack of respect that we're talking about today, it will lead to ineffective session. The goals of the sessions will not be achieved. Therefore, if this is continuous, disengaged team members will be the order of the day. Absenteeism will definitely be one of the highest point of view. And we see this in certain teams where team members will give an excuse that they are double booked, and so they will not attend. Some of them will say they have external meetings. Some of them will say it's a lot of excuses, and of course, this leads to ineffective sessions. Resentment is another, consequence, which is very rampant, because team members will feel that their time is not valued and their commitment, are disrespected. This will ultimately lead to resentment. And when resentment comes in a team, it is a bad smell. It is actually a really bad smell, because it's all about value delivery, value to the customer and value to the organization. So it is quite very important to look at respect and lack of respect within the team. When we look at all of these examples where respect is not available within teams, all we see is none of the events will be good. None of the events will be valuable. Like I said earlier on, every event is there for us to continuously inspect, to continuously adapt, to continuously give value to the team and to the business and to the customers. So every of the agenda items and the outcomes need to be delivered, and respect is a driver for this. And then we're going to look at effect and cause. A lot of people look at cause and effect because, of course, there is going to be a cause and then, of course, leads to effect. Yannick and I have collaboratively look at this and say, why don't we just tweak things around a little bit and look at the effect of lack of respect, right? And the causes as well, right? So disrespect towards certain team members can significantly undermine team dynamics, team productivity, and project outcomes. That is a pregnant sentence, right? It's pregnant in meaning. For example, the team dynamics. Yannick took us through the 4 values of Agile in the Agile Manifesto. 2 of them talk to team members, individuals, people, which means there is no Agile, there is no value delivery without people, right? Which means team dynamics is actually quite very important. If the team dynamics is decreasing, is really impacted, definitely it's not good. Especially, like I said, respect is a vehicle. So productivity definitely will be impacted, and the project outcomes will be impacted as well. What should we do when we recognize and address these behaviors? Teams can foster more respectful, more collaborative, and more productive environment. So this is something that we can take back to our teams starting tomorrow. And if you're joining from other places like myself, we're just starting today, right? Respect, and respect. It is very crucial for effective communication, for effective collaboration, and for continuous improvement in Agile practices. When you communicate, think respect. When you collaborate, think respect. When continuous improvement is your goal, think respect. Having looked at all the bad smells, especially in teams, events, in team ceremonies, in the Agile space, it is about time we switch and look at certain examples and best practices that we have when respect is the order of the day, when respect is available within teams. First of all, let's lay the foundation. Respect is foundational. It fosters a productive and positive team environment. If you have a psychologically safe environment, then productivity will go up, and embedded in that foundation is respect. Respect is a Scrum value. And you can see, even from the Scrum.org point of view, of course, Scrum Alliance as well, which is also mapped to the PMI value as well. You can see respect is there. Every good Agile, models put respect. I wanted to say every good Agile model respects. So respect is actually a very, very, very foundational element. Now, having done that, let's look at certain examples, and there might be 1,000,001 examples. If we want to talk so much about these examples, we'll be here till I don't know how many days. But let's take one example each in each of the events, just like we did for some of the Agile ceremonies when there is lack of respect. Your daily sprints or your stand-up meeting, right? If, for example, during stand-up meetings, each team member is encouraged to share their updates without interruption, right? The team listens actively and respects each other's contribution. Now, what does this mean? One of the things that we do during stand-up meeting is to time box it to 15 minutes, and the team members will give an update of how they are traveling, how they are going in their work, right? An example of how this is done is, what did I do yesterday that I completed? What am I going to do today? And what is blocking me, right? Now, other team members are meant to actively listen without interrupting them, because when you interrupt people that are giving updates, it derails the meeting, the stand-up meeting, and then other things will be discussed. And then 45 minutes later, you're still there. It returns to the status meeting. Now, what are the best practices during stand-up? Of course, first of all, with respect embedded in the team. When the team members that are giving updates are not interrupted, active listening is important, right? It encourages team members to listen attentively without interrupting. This is one of those ideas that respect brings into place. Philosophy, that respect brings into place. Equal voice. Now, people are diverse. Some people are very, very bubbly, talkative, and extroverts, right? Some are very quiet and introvert. Respect allows the people that are quiet to even have a voice as well, right? Because they carry value and they are valuable to the team. So equal voice, every team member has an opportunity to speak, right? You would have seen in several teams where certain people are the people that talk. Certain members are the one that talk and talk and talk, while other people do not have the opportunity to do so. With respect in daily sprint, everybody has an equal voice. And then we go ahead to look at the feedback that we have, right? So when blockers are actually raised within the stand-up meeting, right? We need to be, as team members, to be very respectful to the people that are raising these blockers, because the idea is to be open and transparent, and they're trying to be open and transparent. And so rather than blame them for not dealing with the blockers, we should respectfully focus on the solution. And then after the stand-up, we can help them, especially the Scrum Master and other team members that could help them doing that. So at least actually, the best practice here is constructive feedback that helps us focus on solution rather than blame. Okay, I can see some engagement going on in the chat. Thank you, Yannick, for really dealing with those things. And of course, we can talk more about it at the end of the session. Let's look at sprint planning. When you are planning for the next iteration, right? There's an example where a product owner and team members collaboratively prioritize tasks, right? And respecting each of the team members' insights and expertise. Like I said, when lack of respect is dominant, when you do sprint planning, it's an opportunity for us to present value for the next 2 weeks, right? The product owner brings the what's. What do we want to focus on in terms of the goals, right? And also the work items that we support it. The team members are in charge of the how do we deliver this value, because they have their expertise, they have their insights, right? So when respect is within in the team, both the product owner and the team members will collaboratively work together, right? For example, if the product owner wants to focus on an item, however, the team members think there is a prerequisite to be dealt with, respectfully, the product owner will listen to them because they know better technically, and they will bring the idea or the value delivery to fruition, all right? And that leads to some best practices, or there are some best practices that needs to be that are very evident. First of all, inclusive discussion. I don't think I need to over-pamper this because the example itself talks about being inclusive. All the team members need to be, involved in planning discussions because they have diverse insight, they have diverse expertise, and that is why we call them a cross-functional team. We want to value opinions of people in terms of what they bring on the table, especially when we have dialogue, when we have conversations. We want to collaboratively reach a consensus, especially when we have conflicting ideas on the table, right? During the sprint planning meeting, we need to find a way to reach consensus because this is good to have a team, consensus rather than individuals cutting the shots. Clear communication. We need to ensure clear, respective communication of goals and expectation. If the goals are not clear, that is the starting point. Of course, any road will lead to where you're going. In order for us to ensure that, we deliver value, we have to have very, very, very good goals, right? And that clarification can come with respectful communication, with clear communication as well. One example from the sprint review, which is the show and tell part of the event that we have. Let's assume that during sprint planning, a sprint review meeting, each member presents the features they have worked on, and stakeholders ask questions and respectfully provide feedback. This is a very good example where respect is dominant within the agile, environment, right? Now, there's a reason why we have sprint review meetings or the showcases, where that some organization calls it, such that we can share how we are going, the value we are creating, the increment we are creating to users, to business people, to customers, and we can get feedback whether we are going in the right direction or we're going in the wrong direction. The best practice to support is, again, listening is coming here. Imagine a stakeholder interrupting, right? The team when they are delivering or presenting their features that they've worked on. Even if it's not what they expect, they should allow them to really go through their features, and then when they seek for feedback, the stakeholders can talk. So we need to encourage team members and stakeholders to listen attentively without interruption. That is the best practice. Dialogue, it is important to ensure questions of feedback are given and received respectfully. It is a difficult one, I know. Sometimes the team has worked really, really hard and they are expecting a very good, feedback from the stakeholders. But sometimes some feedback might be critical because at the end of the day, we want to provide something valuable to the end users as well, right? But we should be able to give feedback respectfully and also receive feedback respectfully. The idea is to focus on improvement rather than criticism. It is easy to criticize. However, let's focus on improvement. Of course, equal opportunity comes here, right? One of the good things about sprint review is the people that actually do the real good work should be given the opportunity to demonstrate what they have delivered during the sprint or during the iteration. And that is the full definition of respect, where people that have put in effort are rewarded by standing in front of the team or stakeholders to present what they have worked on. Moving on, we are almost there. Retrospective. There is an example where team members discuss what went well, really well, and what could be improved, and they are respectfully doing this and constructively doing this. The focus will be on continuous improvement without assigning blame. And I must say that there is a thin line between assigning blame and focusing on improvement, which is where respect comes in very, very strongly. Because every statement that people make can either be interpreted as assigning blame or, you know, as a way of really passing feedback. Now, when we discuss within the sprint retrospective, which is a meeting for the team themselves, having a psychologically safe environment is critical. We cannot have a psychologically safe environment without respect. This is an environment where people can say what is on their mind without fear of being judged, without fear of being reprimanded, right? Even if they have messed up, they should be free and safe to say what is on their mind. So respect is a critical element when it comes to sprint retrospective or effective sprint retrospective. So I've said a lot about safe environment. They should feel comfortable sharing honest feedback. The focus on growth is critical. It's about being a learning team, a learning organization, and relentless improvement is built into that. If criticism is always coming, it takes in no time, team members will go into their shell. Even when they are present in the room, they will be absent in their mind. And so we want people to bring their whole self to work, team members to bring their whole self to work. Appreciation. If someone has done an amazing thing, if people within the team members have really contributed immensely to the success of the iteration or the project, let's acknowledge them. Let's applaud them. Let's appreciate their effort and contribution. This will not only make them feel good, but it will motivate them to do better work in the future. Okay, so it is very important to appreciate. That is very, very important when respect is available. And one of the meetings that we have there, backlog refinement, and I did mention that it's when we try to make our backlog ready and refined for upcoming iterations. And a particular example that we will talk about is when the product owner and team members prioritize together, respecting each other's input and ensuring that the highest value items are addressed first. Now, product owners are quite instrumental, all right, to the value realization of projects. Team members are very instrumental as well. And so the respect between every single member of the team and the product owner, not forgetting the Scrum Master, is quite very important. All right. So if everybody knows their their work, if they know what they need to deliver or what they need to contribute to the team. For example, the product owner's responsibility is definitely to bring in insight from the end user's perspective, from the customer perspective, from the business perspective to the team. And the team members are meant to use that information and track how they are going to collaboratively work on those things. Now, if everybody knows their responsibility, then respect will be the gum, will be things that we align everything together. So collaborative prioritization is important, and this has to be respectfully done, right? Everybody has got something to bring on the table, especially when it comes to prioritization of tasks during refinement sessions. Why do we have to prioritize tasks? Why do some tasks take priority and why some are deprioritized? So we need to have clear justification. If we don't start with why, if we are not clear about the reason for doing this, then it might really not make sense to a lot of people. And we need to have respective reasons for this. For example, a product owner say this is what we need to do first. The question is, why are we prioritizing this task over others? When the team member says, "Oh, guys, Mr. Product Owner, yes, we know, but we need to do A, B, C first before we do your item." Respect will help them understand each other and prioritize tasks as they should be when clear justification is in place. And time, respect for time as well. Every session should be focused on the item, on the outcome of the session, which means if we as team members come for meetings and we do not respect other people's time, we may end up spending 1 hour in the room without achieving the aim of the meeting. So we should have respect for people's time and keep things the way it should be, because people are busy and we should know that. Now, they're not just busy, they are creating value. And so if we keep them in the room in backlog refinement session without respecting their time and the outcome is not achieved, then the whole essence is not good enough. And I think those examples really focus on when there is lack of respect and when there is full respect. And I'm going to really invite Yannick here to help us with some of the key takeaways that we have considered in this, session today. Hopefully you've gotten a few things that you're going to take back to your team when it comes to respect and lack of respect. Yannick, over to you.
Thank you, Pete. Great examples with all the scenarios that you've presented tonight, with how a team behaves when there's no respect and how a team behaves when there is respect. And I think like every one of you guys, so I've been taking some notes as well. So when Pete was talking, and some really good notes, points that Pete raised that I've wrote down is about culture. So Pete talked about a toxic culture, and that lead to ineffective sessions and resentment and decrease in collaboration. So this is where I think the takeaway today, that based on these points that we've been talking and that wrote down from Pete, is we talk a lot about toxic culture, a problem with a culture, but where does toxic culture comes from is that's derived by the values. So we spoke before about having the right values. So how PMI values is aligned with the Agile Manifesto values. So values drive your behavior. And when we have a whole team that doesn't have a right behavior, with time, that become a culture. So if we don't have a right values, so the culture will be wrong, which we call a toxic culture. That will lead to people not being happy. There will be a lot of people leaving the team, so a high turnover of staff. And at the end of the day, it will not be providing value to the customers. So I hope that message is pretty clear. And what the takeaway I want to leave you tonight is that respect serves as one of the foundational ingredients because it creates trust. So we've seen as well on the Agile Manifesto that 50% of a manifesto talks about interaction with a team. So in order to have a really good interaction, we need trust. So with trust, collaboration will increase, and that will help to ensure that all the ceremonies are very, very effective, so that people can talk in an open manner where they can tell what's working and what's not working, especially what's not working. There's a really good quote from Clarence Brown, so who was one of the CEO of Dow Jones. So he said that everything can be improved, anything can be improved, but if we don't really share what's wrong, we won't be able to improve. And we want to continue to improve so that we increase the maturity of our organization and deliver more and faster, but in a team environment where the culture is really good. So I want all of you guys to really look at the PMI values. So today we spoke a lot about respect, but respect is not the only ingredient. So we've got responsibility, fairness, honesty, and all this apply to help you to acquire the power skills that we've seen on the right here, so that you can be better equipped to lead your team, act as a role model, act as a servant leader, and at the end of the day, you will deliver value for your customers. So this is all what we want to talk today. And now we are happy to take any questions. And also we've put our email address and LinkedIn profile. Just connect with us, send us an email. So the communication, the conversation doesn't stop here. So we are always happy to continue to talk to you, and also look at the PMI ethics. So in projectmanagement.pmi.com, we have a website called Ethics Bistro. So have a look at that, and we always putting new articles so every month, so to help you become better leaders. So happy to take any question from now.
Yeah, so there's a question from Joseph, and I'll quickly read it, and then I can start, and Yannick can add to that. He said, what are some of the advice you would give to a Scrum Master who works with geographically dispersed teams to get them to performing stage to avoid the pitfalls you have mentioned in the slide? All right, cool. So Joseph, the world has changed, especially post-COVID. There are more opportunities to work with dispersed team across, not only with a country, but not even within the region, across the globe as well, right? So we consider there are quite a number of factors coming in here in terms of culture, in terms of the size of the team itself, in terms of time differences and all those things. Now, one of the very, very good advice that we should start from as Scrum Masters that look after a geographically dispersed team is to bring everybody together and have a kind of team agreement, a team contract on how they are going to work together. Now, this is the outcome of a team contract will be more like an informal agreement within the team on how they are going to deliver their work. And to be honest, every time I hold this session, respect is always coming into the, because everybody wants to feel respected, but you can't earn respect if you don't give respect. And so that's one of the things, just linking it back to what we shared today. So having a team contract is one of the best ways to start. And then there are other things you can do as well to take them from storming to numbing, and of course, ultimately to performing. But that is actually a very good place to start. And then you can have other ideas to actually breed a good team dynamics within the team. Yannick, anything to add on that one?
Yeah, yes, well said, Pete. And also, I think, as you mentioned, is that the Agile Manifesto is about 23 years old now. So when it was created, we did not have Teams and Zoom. And as you can see, so we've got about 64 people online from different countries. I am in Australia, in Canberra. Pete is in Melbourne, and you guys are in different countries in Africa. But yes, so by respecting the time, and talking, collaborating with the team members, we always find a way where everyone can meet. And when we have a really good culture, when people want to communicate and collaborate. So you will see people will make up the time as well. But if we have a toxic culture, this is where people will try to, we call it put stones, to say, no, that time doesn't work for me. I want my own time. I want it to be that way. But this is where with servant leadership, with the right values, the right behavior, respect, you will start to work. So you will see the collaboration will become much, much better within the team. And I think for us as well, the original meeting was going to be 1 hour earlier. And because of our time, we tried to move it again 1 hour later because it's now 5 a.m. my time. But this is how you can see that things will work, and it does work.
Yeah, well said, Yannick, with good examples as well. With good example. Thank you so much. Respect is ultimate. And if we do what we just said now, at least if we steer the team in the right direction. I think we can take one more question. I think, okay. How to deal with team members who storm forever? Oh, yeah. Stalking, storming. That is really, really, really very I wouldn't say common, but it is there when, yeah. So it is the root cause analysis, right? Paul, right? I think I pronounced your name very, very, very well. Now, culture of the organization, of the team. So there is an organizational culture and there is a team culture as well. Now, if a team is storming, then there is a problem. That is why we need a good servant leader, a good team leader, a good true leader. That's what they call it now. Scrum guy, a true leader, which is a scrum master, to help guide. Is like a shepherd guiding the sheep, guiding the team towards performance, right? The goal of a very good team lead, if you're using the discipline agile concept, or a scrum master if you're using scrum concept, is to help the team spend the least amount of time in the storming stage. And that means we need to deal with some dysfunctional cultural values of the team. Now, if the team is stuck, that means the culture is endemically bad. And so we need to begin to look at that. Team dynamics, focus on continuous improvement, remove blame, all the bad smells that we saw in when respect is unavailable, we need to be able to do it. And of course, there are tools that we can use to know the root cause of all these issues. It's like someone has fever, we see temperature, and then you would continue to send them to the bathroom to have shower to cool them down without treating the cause of the fever, right? The same thing, we need to go to the doctor and treat. Maybe it's a malaria fever that they have, and then use medication, and then what happened? The effects will go away. And that's exactly what I would advise to you. First of all, look at the culture. Second of all, team contracts, and then begin to navigate, guide the team out to performance. It's not going to happen overnight, but over time, with consistency and respect within the team, we're going to guide the team ahead. All right. Yannick, anything to add on that one?
Yes. So to add to that is that's a really good point. So in fact, very often when I'm recruiting a project manager in my team, I can see there's a lot of project managers that started project but then never finished it. So people are really good to start things. So if we look at Agile, some of the tips that I can give you to prevent that from happening is, first, if we are starting things, we always in that storming stage is because the process is not really clear. So the first thing, we need to have the ground rules. So before you start your agile team, before you start the project, work with a team, create the ground rules. So the ground rules is really important. So to really set up, so when our sprint meeting will be, how we are going to run our backlog refinement. So that will set up the ways of working, how we want to work together. So by having a really clearly defined ways of working, we can fix it when there's things that go wrong. So during the retrospective, so things will appear, will pop up. So people will communicate about what's not working, and it's easily fixable. But if we don't have a ground rules, we cannot really go and change it. So every day will be a different ways of working. And also when I've seen that, so in again PMI ACP in Agile, there is something that's called Shuhari. So I put it in the chat, Shuhari. So what this tells us is that it's very important to learn the framework. If you're doing Scrum or Scale Agile framework, just learn how it works, follow it first before you start to go and tailor it or change it. So this is what Shuhari tells us, is that don't change things without understanding. So follow the rules, learn the rules, follow the rules before you start to change. What tends to happen, people start to change things, create their own rules, and then it doesn't work. So they go into a circle all the time. So that impede on delivery. Next question.
All right, I'm looking at time. I think we have a couple of minutes more. Nelson, please advise us. I know we waited a couple of minutes before we start, but there's one more question here from Aderemi saying, how does respect impact collaboration, communication, and conflict resolution within an agile team? Aderemi, the whole presentation today is all about your question, to be honest, because we spoke about the effect and the impact, right? Of course, the costs of respect and disrespect within the team. Now, we laid a foundation in the beginning around Agile Manifesto and the Agile values, how communication, collaboration within the team is a factor. In fact, 50% of the 4 values are based on collaboration and team, right? Now, in terms of that, if there are absent of all these collaborative or team dynamics, it leads to conflict. Now, let me first of all tell you that there are opportunities for good conflict within the team, because if everybody is agreeing of every single thing, we may not be delivering as much value as possible. So there is a good thing when you respectfully disagree a little bit about a point so that you can think outside the box. But we need to watch out for when the disagreement becomes a bad smell within the team, right? And that is where conflict resolution comes into play. Now, team members that are very respectful will deal with conflict respectfully, right? I work very well with Yannick, for example. It's not every time we speak that we agree, but every time we speak and we need to have a consensus, we respectfully disagree and then lead to a consensus. And so that's how we that's the effect, I would say, of respect on conflict resolution. If you go through the PMI ACP training, there are different levels of conflict, but I'll just stop here because we can't go into that, but you want to avoid your conflict becoming a world war within your team. So deal with it as soon as possible, respectfully, and then go out, get outcome respectfully as well. Yannick, anything to add on that one?
Yes, Pete. So I think I was thinking about that really good question, is that no one really wants to stay in a team where you're not respected, you're not valued, your voice is not here. So what happened is that you see a high turnover of people. And then with a high turnover of people, so before we spoke about you staying storming, but I think here you'll stay informing, because the team will constantly be forming. because new team members will always be coming. You will not move forward. So this is what will happen if there's no respect. So team will leave. You will stay in the forming stage all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, that's stuck in shoot. Not even shoot, stuck in storming. All right, guys. Okay, cool. So one last thing, please. You've got our contact on the screen. Scan the QR code, connect with us on LinkedIn, send us a mail. We'll be happy to support anyhow we can. And in your different projects, different organizations as well. We are not too busy for a catch up as well. So let's connect and let's take the conversation further. All right, Nelson, are we going to share the PDU before we close the session today?
Yes, we're gonna.
Yes.
Yeah, we're gonna post it on the chat.
All right, cool. How are we doing with time? We started around around this time an hour ago. So it's just we like to keep time very time box things. So this is exactly 1 hour when we started. But I need advice from Nelson and Anthony. I think we are done with that.
Yeah, sorry, Pete. Yeah, and just one thing, I'll just put a link in the chat. So it's the projectmanagement.com. So Ethics Bistro, where there is a lot of resources that we are constantly updating. So there's an article as well on that in there. So if you guys want to jump in and have a look. Yeah, sorry, Pete.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. Okay, over to you, Anthony and Nelson.
All right, thank you very much, Pete and Yannick, for this session. We'll be sending the recording for this session after the meeting. Also, the PDU for all of you who attended today's session. Nelson, if you're able, you can also post the PDU code on the chat options once you're ready. Also, we want to highlight that this is a monthly webinar that you're going to be having each and every month, and we're going to be having different topics. If you have any proposals in terms of some of the topics that you'd like to hear on Agile, feel free to reach out to us at pmiafrica@pmi.org. Also, Nelson will post that on the chat. If you also want to participate and be a guest in one of these sessions in the panel discussions, feel free to also send your details to us, and we'll be able to work with you. So thanks again to Pete and Yannick. I know it's very early in Australia. We really appreciate the great presentation. Thanks, and bye for now. And we connect later. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Always a pleasure. Bye.
Thank you.